Welcome everyone to our presentation on the QCTO occupational qualifications. Please note that this presentation wasn't endorsed by the QCTO. It was made by us, and that is how we interpret the new QCTO processes. You struggle a lot to get this resources or understand it. So hopefully with this video, it will help you to understand the new processes that's kicking in soon, already started kicking in. Again, if there's something that you find is not 100% correct, please feel free to comment at the bottom of this video. Now, first of all, we know previously we had the legacy qualifications. That's the ones that worked on unit standards. And most of these qualifications expires in June 2019. Now, the QCTO already announced and said that some qualifications will be renewed after June 2019, some will not. So you'll have to check with your CETA and the QCTO if your qualification that you're busy offering will be renewed, and you can train it another 3 years, or if yours will expire in June 2019 and you will have to do the new one, then that means there's probably a new qualification QCTO already developed that replaces the current one. So you'll have to do the new one, develop the new one. Again, the QCTO is doing occupation qualifications. Occupation qualifications, occupation tells you it's based on a job. So that's something, a job title, someone is doing a task, and it's based on that. Let's go to our first slide. That we see our legacy qualifications. We typically had our theory, the practical, the learner enroll. He does the theory and the practical. His assignments, he gets assessed. After the assessment, he's been found competent. He do his internal moderation. After that, our CETAs come and they do external moderation, what we also refer to as the verification process, and then certification will be issued with his statement of results. Now, like someone explained to me, when I explained it to this entire process to me, they said to me, forget everything that you know about this legacy qualifications, because the new model works totally different. Don't try and mix the one up with the other one. It's a total new process. So forget everything. Let's go and look how this new occupational qualifications is going to work. And there we have it. There is 3 parts in it. You can see in the top of the screen, knowledge, practical, and workplace. Now, knowledge is typically our classroom. Like you train people, there's some formative activities we're going to do. The assessor, note, we refer to the assessor now as an internal assessor. The internal assessor is going to mark or assess these formative activities, find him competent. 25% will be internally moderated, and the learner then complete his knowledge part. The next part is the practical part. Again, he goes out, he does his practical, he submit his assignments. The internal assessor is going to assess it. He finds him competent. The internal moderator will then come and moderate 25%. And then we have this new thing on the right-hand side, workplace. Now, that is typically the learner have to go to an employer, typically a cashier. She have to go and sit on the till and practice on the till to make sure she can do it. And then someone in the workplace, a supervisor or a manager, will sign off her logbook to say how long she was there. Now, if we're looking at the knowledge, the practical in the workplace, you can see there's 20%. Now, this qualification is, say, 50 credits. We still have notional hours, so 50 credits becomes 500 notional hours. And that 20% means from that 500 notional hours, 20% must be knowledge, 20% practical, 20% workplace. And the skills provider can decide where he wants to place the remaining 40%. So that's up to the skills provider. When he develops the program, he can say where he wants to put that extra 40%. Okay, cool. We also noticed that I started using new words. Before we had a training provider, now we call him a skills provider. Now, getting back to the presentation, the learner completed his knowledge. He was found competent on this part. He's done his practical. He was found competent on this part. He's done his workplace with the employer. the logbook comes back, the internal assessor assesses it, he's been found competent again on that. Internal moderation was done, and the skills provider will now issue the statement of results. So that's quite a big change here. The skills provider will create this, and the learner will take the statement of results then to what we call an ISA center, an external integrated summative assessment center. And he will go and write his final exam after being finished with the skills provider with the ISA center. Now, we already know, we've seen a couple of ISA centers being registered, and most of them is typically colleges. Where you go to the ISA center, you say to them, listen, I'm ready for my assessment. You do your final assessment or exam there, and they will then do the certification, how handle the certification to the actual learner. Let's just quickly review on it. There's the learner. Learner wants to study something. He goes to the QCTO website, get a list of the provider, contact the provider, enroll for this course. Typically, he will start with the knowledge part, complete the knowledge part. After that, he will then go to the practical part. And after the practical part, he will go to typically an employer, to his workplace experience, get him to sign all those logbooks off. Everything gets assessed. All three gets assessed individually, found competent. Training provider issue him then with a statement of results. Learner is very happy. He takes this statement of results to an ISA center. Now, important here is you need three things to register with an ISA center. A valid statement of results from a training provider. We've got a bit of uncertainty on what needs to be on that statement of results, but the skills provider will issue that. A certified copy of your ID book, and then make sure that you meet the entry requirements. Now, that was already supposed to be checked with the skills provider when he took you on, because the qualification will tell you any person who wants to do this qualification had to do something or must be on a different level. For example, must be on an NKF2 maths level. So they will check that you meet all the qualification, that specific qualifications entry requirement. They will let you do the actual final, integrated final assessment, as they call it. And once you pass that, they will then issue you with your certificate. Big problem that we're going to have there. If a training provider issue you with your final statement, you feel that you are ready. If you're going right with the ISA center and you don't pass, we're going to have a bit of problem, because learners is going to go back to the skills provider and ask them what's going on. There we have our whole entire quality assurance process going on. Some major changes, again, that's not in the presentation, stuff that people always want to ask assessors and moderators. How does it work with the QCTO? Now, assessors do not have to be registered with the QCTO. However, the QCTO will constantly do site visits with the skills provider and make sure that the assessors are registered and have the necessary experience to actually assess people. Moderator, it's a big question mark. I'm not going to expand too much on it. The QCTO constantly say we need to do internal moderation. There's some talks that there's still uncertainty about that. And I'm not going to include it into the presentation, how that's going to deal. That we still needs to find out from them. But as I say, they do make a reference and say that 25% of all assessments must be internally moderated. Trainers previously wasn't really interested in the trainers. QCTO, however, are. So as with the assessors, the skills provider must have record of the trainers, because the QCTO want to see who trained these people. Is this person qualified? Do we have the experience to actually offer this course? And again, remember, when this learner gets his statement of results and he goes to the ISA center and he can't pass his final exam, he's going to return back to the skills provider, and that's where we're going to have a problem. So we need qualified people there. Learning program approval, a lot of people said, again, it's extremely easy to do it through QCTO. Yes, I don't say extremely, but it is much easier with the CETAs. But again, there is an entire quality management system that's going to roll out again. So it's not about getting the program approved, but also getting the learners to pass the assignments, to get their final statement of results, and also getting to pass the ISA center. So your program might be quickly approved, but during the process you might fall off from the wagon. So again, the quality system will kick in there. QMS changes, we advise you to take your current QMS and just change it. Keep two, one for the CETA, one for the QCTO. 3 major changes that the QCTO want to look in there. One is the changing of your policy on how trainers, assessor, moderators will be registered. We've spoken about that. Adding that part about the workplace experience into your QMS. And then the third part is this issuing of the statement of results. How are you going to keep it? How are you going to issue it? And then a major one that we don't have on the presentation is terminology. Like I said, training provider is now a skills provider. Thank you everyone for watching our video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Any comments, please remember to comment at the bottom comment block of this video. Thank you for listening.